Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Tesla, let's go over the market and figure out what is happening and what we can expect moving forward into, well, the rest of the month and the rest of this week. So with that being said and done, if you enjoy the video, don't forget to hit that like button, as this is not financial advice. This is also, I'm not a financial advisor. I think, did I say the part? If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button. I forgot. But also, by the way, obviously, if you're interested, I do have a membership section on YouTube, right? For just $3 a month, you get access to all my intraday thoughts, posts, updates, options flow, chart analysis, technical analysis, all that stuff on Tesla and sometimes other stocks every single day that the market is open. So if that's what you're interested in and you find that intriguing or whatever, the link is down below. Definitely check it out. Would love to have you. But with that being said and done, let's jump into it. Tesla closing the day down pretty much a single percentile, closing at 176.29. Which compared to the market is going to be a bit of an underperformance actually. Tesla was actually outperforming the market for the most of the day. It really was. And then it started to slowly bleed and really just start to underperform the market throughout the second half, we'll say, of the day, which is a little bit of a shame to see. But let's talk about what this actually means moving into it, right? So obviously, we've had some pretty wild swings the past 3 days, right? I mean, the past 3 days we've been, from like, let's say the highest point to the lowest point, we've been moving about, we'll say about like 4%, 3%, like 4%, 3%, something like that, right? So we have some pretty nice intraday swings the past 3 days. But the thing that sucks is the fact that all 3 of those days we're still within that same trading range that we've pretty much been in for like what? Almost a month now, right? Look at all these candles here, right? Almost a month. So unfortunately, I think there's the chance that we still remain within this trading range for potentially the rest of the week even. But with that being said, I do believe a large move is building up. We are essentially starting to squeeze here. There is going to be a pretty decent move building up very, very soon. So with that being said, patience is required. Like I know I said this before, but sometimes it is what it is. Patience is required because I think we're entering a climax probably next week. I think next week, what is it, June 13th? Yeah, June 13th, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is that shareholder vote. And honestly, the climax should happen sometime around that. Could be before, could be the day of, could be the day after. Hard to say for sure. But generally around that time is when I expect this climax to finally burst. Now, the question, of course, is going to be where do we go and what maybe is the more probable outcome as to the direction that we can go. Let's talk about that. So I said this before, right? Let's just zoom out over here very quickly. We have the daily chart. We have this green trend line that we have been rejecting at here. Oh, we started up here. We got rejected at it over here after that massive double pump, right? And then we rejected at it not too long ago, but it's about 2 weeks ago. And then now we're rejecting at it pretty much 3 days in a row, almost exactly at it, right? And this is why I always say, and I have been saying that in order to get potentially, a more confirmation to a further move to the upside, we want to at the very least be closing above this green trend line, which at the moment will be somewhere around the 180 to 181, right? That's step number one. But if you want like a further confirmation, you really, really want to get like, I guess a more convincing close, a daily close above 183 and especially 185, in my opinion, would be great. That's what you really, really want to be looking at and, trying to, I guess, be patient about if you can, right? That's kind of what you want to be really waiting for. But, even as low as 181, a daily close above 181 roughly is already a promising sign. It's just 183 and 185 are more and more convincing. Now, on the opposite side, we have, of course, the downside levels, right? The downside levels as well, this level down here that we've been constantly finding support at, which is going to be pretty much, like I said, around that 173 and change level, right? Closing below what that general level, pretty much below 173 is not good. That's going to trigger a downside move. Now, don't forget, this pattern that we're potentially, if I zoom in like this right here, right, this pattern that we're potentially in is potentially, a arguable descending triangle pattern, which is in theory a bearish pattern. And in theory, usually, not always, of course, nothing is guaranteed, nothing is 100%, but more often than not, it plays down to the downside, right? It does play to the downside, right? Eventually, you constantly make these lower lows, and then you constantly kind of like, you're kind of like smashing that resistance, or so rather support level below us, right? Which is that 173-ish level, and then eventually it cracks and you finally, bleed through it. Again, it doesn't mean it has to play out that way. It's just, if you are a betting man, it most likely will. But again, patience is important, and this is why you want to wait to really get a daily closure candle above or below one of these levels I mentioned before to really get a better idea as to, okay, well, we're probably going here next. The chances of that have just increased, a pretty decent amount, right? So you want to be waiting for those kind of confirmations. Now, MACD on the daily chart has obviously flipped bearish, and it has maintained the bearish kind of trend, if you will, for a few days now. And today it did get a little bit more of a bearish look to it. So that's not really ideal, right? The daily, MACD is starting to look a little bit bearish. The RSI, not the RSI, sorry, the stochastic is still, not really having any momentum here. So it seems like Tesla is kind of losing this momentum. We're still constantly getting rejected by this, low 180s level, right? So there is some momentum that is questionable here. The weekly stochastic you can see here is kind of flattening out. So there is some momentum loss happening. And if we do break to the downside, like I've mentioned before, I do believe that that's going to, at the very least, take us to about 170-ish, right? 168, 170, something like that. And if we break below that, right, which is going to be this level here, actually, I'll just put it here, right, which will be pretty much this level here. I think we'll come down to roughly around somewhere around here next. And then below that, of course, it will go ahead and take us down to pretty much the very low 160s. So those are the main levels I'd watch for to the downside. If we, of course, do get a move to the downside. Again, patience is important. Let's take a look at the 1 hour chart quickly, excuse me. Go ahead and bring this up. So the 1 hour chart this morning, obviously we had a massive pump in the morning. And then I know it's like, it was overbought on the 1 hour chart and it did revert back to the mean. And now we're just dancing around that kind of the middle range of this 1 hour chart. I know it kind of almost feels like a meme, but it works. Like we get overbought, we come back to the mean. We get oversold, we come back to the mean. It's just a matter of, do you take 2 steps forward and 1 back, or do you take 2 steps back and 1 forward? That's kind of that's really what moves the stock. Obviously there's exceptions to the rule. This isn't the perfect indicator. You can obviously hug this overbought or oversold levels for an extended period of time, and that's what really gives you a move, to the upside or the downside, obviously. But so far, every time we've been oversold, we came back to the mean. Every time we've been overbought, we came back to the mean, and we've just been pretty much horizontal trading for quite some time. But if I remove this indicator here, and let's go to the 15-minute chart, you can really get a better picture over here, at least in my opinion, as to really seeing that major resistance and that major support level just from a horizontal sense. You can see all the way up here, we constantly get rejected pretty much right around this 182, 183 level, just constant rejection over and over and over. But on the flip side, constant support sitting around this 173 level, constant support, constant bounces over and over and over, right? So again, this is why you want to wait for one of these levels to break. Again, if I had to just, quote unquote, take a guess, if you will, I would personally say to the downside is a more likely outcome. I do think there's a more likely chance that we do come down to at least this kind of 170-ish level, if not maybe even as low as the low 160s. But again, nothing's guaranteed, and you want to wait for confirmation. In terms of options flow, we had options flow all over the place today. Morning, massive pump. Obviously, a lot of calls coming in, 1.1 million call as well for the 2026 that came in. So very out of the money. And we had that morning pump. Obviously, throughout the day, we had a lot of mixed, scenarios, if you will, here on options flow, right? A lot of puts came in around noon, which we did have that drop, of course. That's where Tesla started to slowly underperform the markets. But ultimately, all over the place. And a lot of these options that were coming in today, like substantial amount you can see here, a lot of them are for this week, this Friday, 06/7/24. So a lot of short-term plays happening on Tesla, which, I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but we'll see how that actually plays out forward. It feels like people are just kind of playing and maybe are a little bit more cautious when it comes to next week, since that's when that shareholder vote is happening. That is kind of what I'm guessing from this. Tesla did have the most bearish flow today, 30 million. So that's, something to be considered of. And in terms of options sold, again, this is cheddar flow and this is black box. I have a link to both of them down below in the description of the video with a discount if you're interested. We have, of course, a 400K highly unusual put sell for this week that came in this morning, which is good. Maybe they already exited, who knows? But ultimately, nothing too crazy that really came in. We had a 1.6 million call sell, I guess, but that's for 2026, right? It's very, very far out, right? It is a 175, so, which is really strange. I mean, they got a lot of premium for this, but it's a 175 strike with it's $52. So it's like, Tesla, as long as Tesla is within what? About 220 by 2026, which I really fucking hope it's not. That'd be pretty disappointing. This person pretty much wins, but that's a pretty unusual one. I'm not really sure what their thought process is on that one. Why you would sell calls that far out for that strike. There's another one here, actually, 1.9 million, 173.3 call below the bid for June 21st. So clearly, they think Tesla will pretty much be dancing somewhere around the low 170s by then. But all in all, not too much to say for our options flow today, unfortunately, but that's the majority of the video and the majority of what I'm seeing right now. It really just takes some patience, right? In terms of, the daily chart, again, we're pretty much right in the dead smack middle. Weekly chart, we're pretty damn close to the dead smack middle. Tesla is still just pretty much going sideways despite these fairly volatile intraday swings that we've been getting. So it just requires more patience. And until we really get a decisive move and a daily closure below or above one of those levels I mentioned, we're just going to continue going sideways, maybe even up until closer to that shareholder vote next week. So it's just patience is required, ladies and gentlemen. But I do think a big move is coming regardless, which will take us to either 220 or 160. probably pretty quickly, in my opinion, as well, when it does finally pick a direction. So anyways, with that being said and done, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button. And of course, as per usual, I'll see you for the next one. Peace.